Okay, I'll entertain a motion to return to the regularly scheduled board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Probably motion by trustee McGreer, probably second by trustee Abraham to return to the regular, excuse me.
Nope.
Clerk's not here.
Where's,
She went to the chair back.
we still back here. Madam Clerk, there's a motion on the floor. Trustee McGreer motion that we return to the regular scheduled board meeting. It was second by trustee Abraham that we return. I was just getting ready to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, hearing none, there was no business conducted in the executive session. It was just an informational session for us as it relates to village litigation. Madam Clerk, we're going with the regular scheduled agenda.
Item number 3, consideration to approve the following minutes. May 7, 2012, regular business board meeting.
Motion to table?
Second.
Probably motion by trustee Brown Marino to table this, and probably second by trustee Morris.
To when?
Till when? Till the next board
June
meeting?
4th.
Till June 4th meeting? Do I hear any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, that item will be tabled till the next board meeting, June 4th.
Item number 4, consideration to approve the expenditures, grand total all funds, $173,396.51.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Probably motion by trustee Morris, probably second by trustee Hargrid to approve the expenditures. May I have a report from finance, please?
Yes, sir. We have a few things on here today. American Securities Communication, $18,325. Auto Trucking Group, $3,595. Bank of New York Mellon Trust, $50,000. Broadview Police Pension, $3,726.94. Broadview Public Library, $8,569.73. Chicago Communications, LLC, $4,168.56. ComEd, $3,309.81. Gino Heating and Plumbing, $20,930. Group Industries, $9,564.28, and Health Endeavor, that's C, $8,115, which is 87% of the bill of $150,304.32.
Do I have any questions or comments regarding the bills as presented, starting with trustee Brown Marino?
Just that, as I said last year, and as I said at the last board meeting, according to the budget system, which is what the village of Broadview adopted in 2003, we're supposed to have our budget in place before the end of the fiscal year, before the new fiscal year begins. Without a budget in place, it's my understanding that we as a board do not have authority to spend money. So for that reason, I have to vote no, and I wanted to explain that.
Okay. Thank you, trustee Brown Marino. Trustee Morris?
No.
Trustee McGreer?
None.
Trustee Hargrid?
No.
Trustee Benson?
No.
Trustee Abraham?
No.
Madam Clerk, I'll entertain a roll call, please.
Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Benson?
Yes.
Trustee Hargrid?
Yes.
Trustee McGreer?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Brown Marino?
No.
And the motion carries to pay the bills 5-1.
Item number 5, reports from my village officer, Commissioner David Upshaw, Building Department.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Our report for April 2012 is as follows. We had 63 permits issued. There were a total of 18 Title 13 inspections. Title 13 inspections deal with the purchase and the sale of property in the village of Broadview. We had 35 contractor registrations. We had 5 complaint tickets were issued, 2 fines collected, totaling $250. There were 10 garage sales, 5 backflow permits. We had 37 complaints. The majority of the complaints dealt with occupancy issues as well as grass-related issues. In terms of grass-related issues, I'd like to thank the residents who called the building department and were making us aware of any high grass that was out there. That's greatly appreciated, and we ask that you continue to do so. We need as much help as we can. So I'd like to thank you. Just wanted to cover some of the issues that the building department is incurring in terms of grass. These are some of the issues that we're dealing, or these are some of the issues that we're currently dealing with. Now that we've had a couple of days of dry weather, the homeowners for the most part are cutting their grass. So we're seeing a lot of individuals, addresses that were on the list, they're coming off the list. Foreclosed properties that are owned by the bank. There are a couple of issues dealing with the foreclosed properties. Number one, when we find out about a foreclosed property, I know the clerk gets letters as well, and she forwards them over to the building department. We contact the bank or we contact the investor or whoever owns the property, and we let them know of the issue about the high grass. Two things can occur. Number one, they can say that they're going to cut it via a property management company, which all of them have. If they don't, then we as a village, the building department, we give them a warning and we ask them how long is it going to take for them to cut the grass. So they have to go through the proper procedure. It normally takes about 2 or 3 weeks. That's one issue. The next issue is property foreclosed by the bank, and they authorize the village to cut the grass. At that point, the village will proceed with cutting the grass through our contractors, and we will put a lien on the property. The fourth issue that we've encountered is we have people who have walked away from their home. And so we try to contact them via cell phone or what information we have. After a period of time, if we have not contacted them, then the village is cutting the grass and we put a lien on the property. But I want everyone to be aware that just because they walked away from their home, the property may be in foreclosure, it may be in the beginning of the process, but it is still considered private property. And so you cannot go on a person's property unless you're authorized to do so. But if they've abandoned the property because they've left the property and we've made every attempt to contact them and we haven't been able to do so, then we will cut the grass and put a lien. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. Also, I should say the next thing is the Village of Broadview has a website. Our new website that's been up for some time now, and it's www.broadview-il.gov. And the reason why I say that is because, as far as I'm aware, unless the board has changed their position, currently there's no solicitation in the Village of Broadview. Are people doing it? Yes, but it's not like it was. It's not consistent. I received a handout or some type of advertisement in my mail talking about village history, and then if you want, this is where the Broadview residents need to go to get information regarding the Village of Broadview. We have a new website, and I know the mayor's going to talk about it, but that's where you need to go to get the information. If you have any additional questions or you'd like any additional information pertaining to the building department, you can feel free to call me, either 708-681-3600 or 708-345-8174, or you can come in and see me. We'll be glad to assist you. In terms of jobs, and I just made this part of my report because as people come in for building permits and things of that nature, you know, we're talking and they let me know what's going on in terms of the community or things in terms of jobs, who's hiring. Chase and Broadview is hiring. CarMax and Hillside is hiring. Home Depot and Broadview is hiring. And I had mentioned, I think back in February, about Ford Motor Company is hiring. I know of 2 residents in the Village of Broadview that are working for Ford Motor Company as we speak. So that's just the FYI for those of you who may be looking for employment. The Circuit Court of Cook County, and I'll get this information put on the website that I'm about to read now. The Circuit Court of Cook County has a foreclosure mediation program. The program is free. If you are an owner, occupant of 1 to 4 residential, family residential properties, if you are a borrower, if the mortgage on your owner-occupied residential property is being foreclosed, If the property is being foreclosed as your primary residence, if the property is located in Cook County, if there is a foreclosure action and you have a case management date on or after June 11th, you can call the foreclosure mediation program. The number is 1-877-895-2444. That's 1-877-895-2444. The program is free. This will be on the website as well as I'll make copies, and it will be in the building department if you'd like some additional information. And finally, I know the mayor is going to speak on this as well. The building department has no business application at this time for any adult uses. And Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Dubshaw. Questions or comments from Ms. Dubshaw, starting with Trustee Marino?
None.
Mr. Moore?
None.
McGreer? None. Harger?
Yes. Garage sales, can you give us the cost of it, or the price, or whatever the fee is to have a garage sale?
The cost for a garage sale is $10, and you can have it up to 3 days.
Garage sales up to 3 days.
Yes.
Hours of the day? Are there hours during the course of the day?
8 a.m. to dusk.
Trustee
Are
Benson?
those 3 consecutive days, or can you hold a garage sale like every Saturday for 3 weeks? Is it 3 consecutive days?
It's 3 consecutive days.
Trustee Benson?
No.
Trustee Abraham?
Yes, Commissioner Upshaw, if you could please provide some additional information. And I know you talked about the foreclosures, but we've had some issues with some apartment buildings there. We've discussed it, so if you want to please share it with the rest of the board, as well as our residents concerning those matters.
In the village of Broadview, there are, I'd say maybe 4 or 5 individuals that own the majority of the apartment buildings. That means they own more than 3. That being said, in these economic times, apartment building owners have fell on hard times just like regular homeowners. What we are finding out, we have some individuals who have lost all of their apartment buildings. Some of them are in the foreclosure process, some of them have been foreclosed on, and they are still collecting rent from their tenants without paying their mortgages. That means their water has been cut off, their electric, their gas, and things of that nature. We have squatters that I just found out recently because no one is managing the apartment complexes. In other words, the owners have just walked away. And I'd say 2 or 3 situations have been presented to me in the last month or so. And we're finding out who owns those properties, what banks are dealing with those properties, and trying to get the situation under control. I know the police is aware of a situation we just had recently where myself as well as the Public Works Director, we decided not to cut the water off. They had a rather high water bill, but what we found out is that the owners, the property had been foreclosed on in April of 2011, and they did not tell the tenants, so they were collecting money, i.e., if the rent was, say, $800, you could give them $500 cash, and as a tenant, you thought you were getting a deal, but what they really were doing was pocketing the money. So those are the type of things that are going on with the commercial type properties with 4 units or more.
Thank you, Commissioner Upshaw.
Our next village officer, Finance Director, Jan Baptist, Finance Department.
Good evening, Mayor Jones,
Good evening.
Board of Trustees, citizens, financial. I'll start off by how many. I'll be a little more lengthy this month because April does represent the end of the fiscal year. So what you're looking at is basically our preliminary actuals. By preliminary, I mean that I have performed most of the known audit adjustments. There are a few that are time sensitive, meaning have to wait 60 days until the final, final deferrals when the auditors come out. but all of the material things. So this pretty much represents pretty close to what's going to be happening in the general fund with some very minor reflections. With that being said, getting into it, the month of April. During the month of April, the general fund actually generated $995,000 in revenues and expended $873 in expenses. But this is all prior to year-end transfers. Fund transfers was one of the year-end adjustments that I make. I did make the adjustments. I transferred $133,000 to the IMRF Fund 7, which covers the non-IMRF fund activity, meaning the Social Security and Medicare expenses, and also transferred $151,000 to the debt service fund, which covers the semi-annual interest related to the 2003 B bond, which is beyond the 90-day, what was it? 90 days beyond our rollover bond, which, if you all remember back in December, I can get really deep, but I'll try not to get too detailed. But that's basically what it relates to. Any of the board members, if you want to remember or a reminder or refresher, just feel free to contact me, and I'll either re-forward you the email from back in December, or I can have a conversation with you to get into as much detail as you want. But with all that said and done, when you look at the general fund, the net impact in April actually results in a net deficit of $162,000. In April, the revenues that were actually collected and were recorded included $230,000 in property taxes, $219,000 in sales taxes, $129,000 in utility and franchise fees, $112,000 in state income taxes, $131,000 in corporate replacement taxes, and $10,000 in state use taxes. The department or the locally generated revenues included $18,000 generated or collected by the building department in permits and inspection activity, $38,000 by the police department in fines and towing activities, and $65,000 in fire departments, ambulance, and hospital buildings. In April, we also collected $24,000 in vehicle license fees, $13,000 in reimbursements of village expenses related to either workers' comps or insurance damage claims. And we also collected the $4,500 from the American Heart Association that went towards paying the defibrillator. The purchase on behalf of the fire department. In April, if you look at the expenses, labor and benefits make up 77% of the total expenses. As far as contractual services, we have $20,000 booked in legal and professional service fees, which is spelled wrong, professional. $35,000 in general liability insurance. That's our monthly expense for our general liability insurance. $25,000 in various repair and maintenance expenses, and also a special year write-off of $31,000 of uncollectible receivables. These are older receivables. For the most part, most of them were actually related to most of the ones that were written off. This is part of my year-end thing. A cleanup of a lot of the old retiree insurance invoices that predated the litigation that was settled last year. So since they were more than 3 years old, I basically wrote all those off because of the likelihood of collection. We also did a cleanup. The building department did a very detailed cleanup of all the business licenses, older ones, and we wrote off all of the activities of any businesses that were no longer in business. So that was the basis of the cleanup, getting rid of all of that, all of the ARs. And so by reducing our assets, of course, the offset was the expense. Okay, I keep talking, let me shut up. In April, also a couple of outlays, capital outlays. The police department, which I'm sure that the chief will speak on, incurred $15,000 in, I'm gonna call it installation equipment fees related to the new vehicles, which you'll talk about. And we also accrued $19,000 for a new alarm system, which I believe is on tonight's meeting for official approval, for the fire department building, actually replacing that alarm system. So those were the significant expenses. As I said, April marks the end of the fiscal year, so what this does is also show you compared to budget and compared to last year, this year's activity. And looking at that, you'll see that the revenues actually were over budget. We actually came in 1% over budget, and actually a 2% increase versus last year. When you look at the activity themselves, property taxes are actually about $200,000 higher than budget, and $274,000 higher than last year. These are year-end adjustments for the slower paying taxes that comes in. We accrue at the end of the year, I accrue all this. But anything that isn't, and this is basically gas, which is the generally accepted government standards, any revenues that are not collected within the 60-day period of the report period, it has to be deferred, which is basically setting up a liability that offsets it. With all that being said, last year was a slow collection year. I don't know if you all remember that. But because that was eventually collected, that's the reason for the favorable variance. When you look at the intergovernment and other tax revenues, sales taxes are 3% below budget, but is 2% above last year. So that actually, if you look overall, our revenues came in 6% below budget, but came in right about the level of the current year. Going one by one, I just talked about sales taxes, use taxes are up, utility taxes were off budget by 2%, but above last year by 1.4%. State taxes and replacement taxes are both down, and the reason for the grant revenue being though is we delayed the hiring of one sworn officer under the Cox program. The village has been awarded a 4-year grant that will actually reimburse us for the expense of one sworn officer. But we had anticipated having them come on at the beginning of the fiscal year. It actually, through the testing and the actual process, was pretty late in the year, so we were not able to recognize a full year of them, but we have the next now 3.5 years to recognize them and get that refund back. Well, we refunded back that expense. So that's what's happening with that. Locally, as far as locally generated expenses, I have to commend our departments for doing a great job. Basically, where we've shorted in other areas, the departments have really stepped up in the revenue areas, compared both to budget and prior years. The building department is finishing year as far as generating in fees, charges, and fines, $483,000 compared to a budget of $426,000. And that's a 13% increase over budget, but compared to last year, that's a whole $100,000 more than last year.
Wow.
The police department generated $389,000, which is $180,000 more than budget, and $244,000. So they basically doubled their revenue this year. The police department coming in with more stringent fines and charges and enforcement. Is that right? I'm looking at you. The fire department continues to be a primary generator as far as it relates to fire and ambulance fees. Calls they have basically $699,000, which was 9% or $58,000 more than budget. Slightly lower than last year, but man, that's up there. Keep it up. We're expecting everything. So, keep those men working. The vehicle licensing activity is just slightly above budget in prior year. I mean, it's a 2% increase, but that's comparable. Liquor licensing also comparable, and the small other is rather insignificant. So when you look at it, the locally generated revenue really stepped up. As it relates to expenditures, our expenditures were actually 1% over budget also, so we slightly overspent. I typically just show the departments and then categories, but because it's year end, What I'm showing you is each department, the highlighted categories, and where there's a significant variance or inexplicable variance, I try to give a little sound bite, more detail, of course, board will be coming to you before the end of the audit, that I have to prepare for them. But in short, the executive department was under budget by $200,000 and $350 less than last year. That's primarily due to less legal and professional fees. And also, last year included a one-time litigation settlement that will never happen again. So that's part of the reason for the $350,000 increase. But legal fees down $200, and then that one-time expense. The village clerk's department is $85,000 below budget. 8,500. I'm sorry, 100 below budget, 6,000 below last year's spending, and that primarily occurs in the area of commodities as it relates to the supplements to the municipal code process. So I'm just assuming that we're just on a backlog. Was that a right assumption?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, the board of commissions was under budget by $11,800 and less compared to last year, basically $10,700. This primarily relates to our budget was just overstated. Last year included the testing, police and fire to come up with a list for new hires, and that's only done every 2 or 3 years. How many years? Two. This wasn't one of the years when we did it last year, so it shouldn't have been in the budget this year. So that's sort of give me a variance. As far as it relates to finance, okay, the finance department finished the year $28,400 under budget, $50,000 less than last year, $50,000 less than last year. Primarily what happens with it, and I probably can talk to it more since it's me, we did have a mid-year transfer of one head count, full-time head count that we did not backfill. We simply took our one part-timer and made our full-time, so that was some savings in the labor area. Our benefits primarily is happening in each one of the departments that have full-time employees experience a significant savings in the area of employee benefits because we did, through the assistance of the insurance committee, select and switch medical providers from Cigna to Blue Cross, saving us about 26% in all the areas, so that's the reason for that savings. And as far as the increase in the contractual service, that's basically the write-offs that I mentioned, the $31,000 that we wrote off, and also some savings in the fact that by switching to Blue Cross Blue Shield, we no longer have to pay the insurance broker premium fee, because that's part of the Blue Cross Blue Shield pricing structure. So that's what those savings are for. As far as the buildings and ground, municipal buildings and ground department, it's over budget, it's both over budget and higher than last year. And that's primarily due to a lot of deferred repair and maintenance that we just been having to deal with. This is an old building, and as things been breaking, we just been having to deal with it. So that's what that is. I'm trying to move as fast as possible. Am I going too slowly?
You only get this report once a year, so, do your year-end thing.
Right. The Treasury / Administrative Department basically only consisted of partial fees for our HR Director, which left mid-year, and so there's nothing in there, so that's just positive variance. The Building Department. The Building Department ended with a budget of, overriding budget by $17,500, but they were under $12,800 compared to last year. The savings is happening, of course, they get $12,000 savings in their employee benefits. However, they did have some higher legal expenses, which were more comparable to last year. If you look at it, this pretty much is a wash. Fire Department. Takes a little bit more explanation, and Chief said, make sure I explain this well, because it's not him. Yes, sir, no, you did say that. The Fire Department, their budget ends the year with $177,000 more than budget, and $176,000 more than last year. That seems like they did some extra spending, but basically what it is additional pension. Tax money, I just told you, as the tax monies come in and deferrals, this is what this relates to. 178,000 of this is actually straight additional contributions to the fire pension board, and so that's just part of that. And the other thing that happened to both the fire and police, which I'll say this one time, is a few months back we settled. We are insured by Illinois Municipal Risk Management Association, and claim year stays open for several years. Workers' comp claim years for years 7 and 8 were closed, with additional expense to the village, which primarily went to the police and fire department. 49,000 of that was the fire department. So that's the reason for their overage. As it relates to the police department, they come in almost dead on budget, only 3,000 over, 190,000 more than last year. You look at it, it's a lot of the activity increase happened as it relates to the contractual services, which we talked about. Well, first of all, pension, they had additional pension funds also set to them, and also to close out the workers' claim year, and they had one-time legal settlement and higher towing expenses, which are associated with higher towing revenues, by the way. So that's sort of a given. Also this year, some of the savings were offset versus budget because it was planned in the budget to purchase 3 vehicles. We only actually purchased 1, 2 of which were donated, and the chief will talk more about. So that savings sort of offset some of the other areas that we just mentioned. Lastly, the Public Works Department. The primary areas worth mentioning is the contractual services. Just bottom line, after looking at the budget, just within here. That's just I think it was the aggressive, either error and or aggressive planning on our part. Both tree trimming and street light maintenance costs were much higher than budget, but as you can see, they were more in line with last year, actually a little less than last year. So as we start to look at the final budget stuff, we'll make sure that we don't make that mistake a second time. As far as they have some savings in commodities, primarily on savings for the ice and salt due to the mild winter. And compared to last year, they did purchase new trucks this year, which weren't in last year. With that being said, our overall expenses, we're just slightly over budget by 141,000. If you look at the overall, we're looking at a net deficit, a net surplus this year of $155,000. And this last little blurb I have basically relates to a conversation that I had both with Mary Jones and Finance Chair Morris, who basically asked the continuous question, what can we do to reduce the deficit? And this is sort of a synopsis of what I said, which I can go into a whole lot more detail if anyone wants it. But I'll read it verbatim because this is really how it is. In closing, the financial outlook of the village is a positive one. While an immediate reduction of a long-standing deficit is desired, it is imperative that the village manages its resources to first meet its #1 priority, which is the ongoing and continuous public safety operations of the fire, police, and street departments. However, looking long-term, if we continue to be fiscally prudent for a few more years, and we make it to 2015, we'll have a lot more breathing room. And when asked that, they always ask me why, and this, I actually wrote the list down. If you asked me to send this to you, I finally put it in writing, sorry. Some of the things that we have on an annual basis that if we can stretch a few more years, will actually free up the general fund. The expiration of the Village Square tip will be finally finished paying off that debt. That's about $2.5 million a year that goes into that TIF fund, of which about 22% will, when the TIF retires, it'll go back to its regular taxpayers, meaning the library get its portion, the schools will get their portion, and the village will get its portion, which is about 22% back into normal operations, so about $646,000. 2015, the village will also be completed with its payback to the short pay of the pension plans that happened in 2003 for the fire police that we've been paying back. we'll finally have those paid off. And on an annual basis, it'll bring $171,000 and $146,000 basically freed up for general fund operations. And finally, in 2015, we'll pay the final payment on the 2005 bond series, which is basically $500,000 being paid out of the general fund. So when you add that up, it's about $1.5 million that, as long as we continue to stay fiscal, meaning department heads keep generating my revenue. And the economy starts to come back a little bit, and we try to be frugal, but also expedient in our spending. We can sweep through, things will open up and start to look better in 2015. And that's all I had to say. Is that enough?
That's plenty. Sure.
It's plenty.
It's plenty. Questions for the finance director, starting with trustee Marino.
Just wondering when we can look forward to having a budget.
I'll speak on that. I'll actually speak on that too. I have received, we have the draft budget all consolidated. I'm current holdup. I did receive it on, last week, a day or so ago. I was trying to finish year end, so that was my priority number 2. So starting tomorrow morning is the scrub, to make sure that we haven't missed any obvious things, to also go back and look at, from the learning of some of the things, now that I have fresh eyes looking at budget versus actuals for this year. So hoping that a draft budget will probably be put together in the next week or so, and at that time then we'll start the process where it's a 30-day display before having a formal hearing and putting it before you all for formal adoption. Did I say that correctly? All right. Did I answer it?
Trustee Moore.
You do a great job. I'll have it.
Trustee McGreer.
Yes, Madam Director, first of all, I want to thank you and your budget officer, Mr. Hood, for doing such an excellent job on this. I know it took a lot of work. We certainly look in excellent position right now, for now and in the future. Another commitment to the department heads for your excellent work in generating the revenues that certainly helped this budget, and the potential surplus of $155,000. That's excellent. Did have one question on the police department. I just want to make sure that we reiterate that those higher towing expenses, $26,000, are offset by the higher towing revenues, which the net effect is nothing on the village. I want to make sure everyone understands that.
It's a net surplus.
That's very good. Okay. With that being said, excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McGreer. Trustee Harger?
No.
Trustee Benson has exited the room. Trustee Abraham?
No, nice job.
Madam Clerk?
Our next village officer, Chief Thomas Gardner, Fire Department.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is my monthly report for the month of April 2012. Over the past month, we responded to 164 emergency calls. Of those calls, we did respond to 4 box alarm fires. As far as our contract responses with Loyola, Hines, and Madden, we responded to 8 fire calls at Loyola Hospital Complex and 23 ambulance responses to that complex as well, for a total of 31 for the month and 119 for the year. Hines Hospital, we responded to 13 ambulance responses for a total of 60 for the year so far, and J.J. Madden, 2 ambulance responses for a total of 7 responses to that facility. Fire prevention, Inspector Scott Karstens performed 95 inspections, one of which was a home inspection, and he did cite 27 violations. We completed 187 hours of training on various fire and EMS-related subjects. The board members, everyone has a copy of the report. I won't get into every one of these. But I attended various meetings inside our division, inside the community with Park District, Broadview Little League, so on and so forth with those. Billing information, we collected $17,130 from paramedic billing service for ambulance services with a net collection of $16,919.04. We billed out $10,500 for Loyola Hospital, $14,520 for Hines, and $1,500 for J.J. Madden, for a total of $26,520 for the month of March. We received $71,856.64 in collections for services to Loyola Hines, J.J. Madden Hospital. For those of you that don't know, last previous board meeting, we got approved to do some live fire training over at the village-owned residence on 17th Avenue, 2047 on 17th. We completed that training. Again, I want to thank the village board and Dave Upshaw for allowing us to use that piece of property for our training. It was extremely beneficial. The structure has subsequently been demolished and removed. So the vacant lot over there now. Good. So that's all taken care of. Over May 3rd, 4th, and 5th, the department did the Fill the Boot for the Illinois Fire Safety Alliance burn camp. It's a burn camp that they send children that have been burned severely. They have a camp every summer for a week where these kids can come, have fun, feel normal again, be with other people that have also been burned. So we collected $2,500 in our efforts with the boot program over those 3 days. We did complete our fire department physicals. Again, I want to thank the village board for approving that and allowing us to get that done. It was extremely important and worked out very, very well for our guys. We had our blood drive last Saturday on the 19th. Was another huge success. We had 36 units of blood that were donated by the partnership we have with Life Source. They're going to donate $1,500 to the Illinois Fire Chiefs Education and Research Foundation. It's part of our partnership with Life Source to run these blood drives. We did get 36 units at this drive, and we had almost 40 at the previous drive that we held back in January. Also, if you still want to donate, you still have time to donate blood by going to any of the Life Source facilities. There's one in Villa Park and one in Westmont. If you let them know you're, within the next 2 weeks, if you let them know that you're donating for the Broadview Fire Department, we'll get credit for any of those blood draws as well, which will bring that number up. This Education and Research Foundation, they supply scholarships to firefighters throughout the state of Illinois to go receive extra training. Tracy Scalise, one of our firefighters, just 3 days ago was awarded a $600 grant scholarship through this foundation, so it's working out really, really well. So now she'll be able to attend 2 or 3 classes off that $600 that the village will not have to pay for. So it's a good foundation, and we enjoy trying to help out with that. The Twin Supplies Lighting Project is near completion. For those of you who don't know, the village received 2 grants actually to redo all the lighting in all the municipal-owned buildings in the village. That would be Public Works, the fire department, as well as the Village Hall Police Department. They've been hard at work over the last month. They've still got a little bit more to do. All the outside lighting on the building itself still needs to be done at all 3 facilities. There's some fixtures that are on back order. That's the only holdup right now. But if you look in the interior lighting, it's much brighter. If you go in the office areas or come by the fire department or Public Works, it's night and day compared to what the lighting was prior. And also it's more energy efficient. We're using about half the amount of wattage that we were using prior to the installation. Just numbers wise, it saved the village in the ballpark of about $85,000 through these 2 grants. The out-of-pocket is in the ballpark of about $4,000 to get all 3 buildings done for the village. So that was a huge accomplishment. NATO was this weekend. Luckily, I know Chief DeGuerre is going to expand on it a little more. Luckily, it didn't spill over into our neighborhood. We were prepared, fire department was prepared to respond with MABUS, our mutual aid association, if need be. I did get called down to work in the emergency operations center for the last 2 evenings, down there as a liaison for the suburbs. Everything went really well, and luckily it had no spillover into our neighborhood. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief Gardner. Questions or comments from the board? Starting with Trustee Marino.
None.
Thank you, Trustee Marino. Trustee Morris.
None.
Trustee McGreer.
None.
Trustee Harvey.
No.
Trustee Benson.
None.
Trustee Abraham.
I do. I have a quick question for the chief. You have listed here for training, CPR training class. Was taught.
Oh.
Is that free to our residents, or is that?
Yes, we do offer CPR classes for residents or business owners in town. It's free of charge to residents. We do charge $50 for non-residents to recoup some of the costs for some of the materials, the books and stuff. We do them every other month for residents. Business owners, we do them on request. We just did 4 CPR classes actually over this past month. 2 of those were for business owners in town. One of the classes was for residents or non-residents, and one was also for, we just got, in fact, it was just last Saturday during the blood drive. Saturday was a busy day. We got all the Broadview Little League coaches trained in CPR first aid as well last Saturday. So, just call the firehouse if you're interested in getting trained in CPR. There's some information on the website about it, or you can give us a call at the firehouse and we can schedule.
Chief, which month are you on the training? Which month are you off?
Right now, the next one will be in July.
July, okay. Thank you.
And if we get a big enough draw, we're more than happy to do as many as we have to, every month we have to. So it's, we're kind of reinventing the program. We've done them in the past. We're going to taking a new look at it. I've got a couple other guys involved in it now that have got some good ideas. So we're going to be doing some more advertising with it, hopefully drawing some more people in, getting more people to train. So I want to get to the point where we're doing them every month. So we just got to get the attendance. But we are getting a lot of feedback from the business owners. We are getting more business owners involved. Like I said, we had 2 businesses in town that we did this week as well. We'll go out to the business, or they can come by the firehouse to get the training.
Thank you, Chief Gardner. Madam Clerk.
Our next village officer, Chief Louis Tegera, Police Department.
Good evening, board. Good evening, residents. I have a lot to report. Bear with me. First of all, our Neighborhood Watch program is sponsored by our Community Outreach Division. They have a meeting May 25th at 6:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. They're going to discuss the implementation of the program and discuss more issues, or discuss the signs. I guess there was a decision on the type of signs we're going to use, what color, blue or orange. The criteria of how we're going to select the captains, the block captains. So again, the meeting will be set at May 25th at 6:30. Officer Casca and Commissioner Yancey will be here. I will provide a presentation with the fire chief on LISO as it relates to the Humvee. We're going to make a presentation today on awards. For those that don't know, we apprehended a bank robber. The police department apprehended a bank robber a couple weeks ago. We were going to provide an award today. But what we decided, and I talked to the fire chief today, we're probably going to have a public safety award presentation at the end of the summer, and hopefully do it in conjunction with the park district and have it there, invite the trustees and invite our families and all that, and give our people the awards or the kudos that they deserve in front of their peers and family. Operation Triangle. As I indicated in other meetings, Operation Triangle consists of police departments, Hillside, Maywood, Bellwood, Broadview, Berkeley, Westchester, and the Illinois State Police That operation consists of guns, drugs, and gangs. It's a two-pronged. It's a prong traffic and a prong criminal. The third prong that we're going to add this time around is truck enforcement. We're going to do that during the day. So during the day, you're going to see truck officers from the Illinois State Police, the surrounding towns, all over the towns, looking for those trucks that are violating the traffic laws that relates to overweights and any other type of equipment violation. Number two, in the evening, we're going to do covert and overt enforcement. So street suppression, if it's covert, we're going to do some drug buys, we're going to have some search warrants, arrest warrants, so we're going to be doing that in June. Our truck enforcement initiative, we hired a part-time officer back in January, and this officer works 15 hours a week. Again, it's part-time, and in fines, he's brought in $26,889. And I know that every month I'm kind of asking, what's the money that where's that money at? What's the process? Well, the process is he writes the ticket, there's a fine, we go to court, the judge decides based on guilty or not guilty. If he or she's going to reduce the fine, that the fine is reduced, and then that goes to the clerk's office. Now the clerk's office gets a cut of that fine. The state gets a cut of that fine. It's that the state that is the Illinois Department of Transportation, Secretary of State, Illinois State Police. Then it goes down to the local level. So as you can see, there's a bureaucracy in that. So with that
Everybody gets dead before we get
out of $26,000, we've only received $2,259.50. That doesn't mean that we're not going to receive the rest. It's just a slow process. Trust me, I've seen it when I was with the state police. It does get to us, but it's a slow process. But I will be providing information. We have Pat Williams, who's in my office. She tracks it almost every day with the clerk's office, because the clerk puts down where it's at and how much money we get. So it's all computerized. So we do see that. I also want to mention that the community policing officers are still working with Linda and with the Park District. Obviously now with the Neighborhood Watch program, they're kind of busy, but they're doing an excellent job trying to re-energize the police community relationship. Our monthly, what I do is I started comparing our stats, not from the month before, but the previous year. So I could have a better measurement on how well the police department's doing. And as the director indicated of finance, that revenue-wise, we're doing really well compared to last year. So as it relates to total citations, April of this year, we brought in 387 total citations. April of last year, it was 278. Total arrests this April 2012, it was 25. April of 2011, it was 18. As it relates to the revenues that we brought in, April of 2012, I have 34,976. I like her numbers better. She came in with 38,000. But those are numbers that are coming in after we identify these revenue. April of 2011, the police department brought in $12,000. So it was a change of $22,000. That's more proactive work. You see the police officers out there doing their job, doing more with less. And I keep on telling you, we are doing more with less. So during the month of April, we responded to 1,295 calls as compared to 1,560 calls in March. 3 arrest warrants were served for other law enforcement agencies. 2 sex or youth offenders residing in Broadview were processed. 1 party was fingerprinted for employment reasons. 1 bicycle was registered for residence. 47 cases were assigned to the Detective Bureau, a Detective Bureau of 2. 14 were cleared upon investigation, with 6 arrests being made, resulting in a 30.43% assigned case solved. That's pretty good. We also solved a murder that was one of those, where we had a murder a couple months ago on Roosevelt Road, and the individual was subsequently sought, indicted, and is being held at, I believe, 60 County. Okay, so let me get to the LESO program. I'll do that in a second. NATO. So everyone knows what NATO was and how it affected the city of Chicago. But what maybe you don't know is how law enforcement prepared itself for this. When I say law enforcement, I just don't mean the city of Chicago. I mean federal, state, and locals. Locals all over the Chicagoland area, from south Cook County to north Cook County to west. So in this situation, we had the Net 17. The Net 17, they're those agencies that I just identified that we did this triangle with. So we prepared an operational plan. It was not just only us, the police, but we also worked in conjunction with the fire department. And we wanted to be ready. We wanted to identify the fact that we had staffing during these 2 or 3 days. We wanted to identify that our staffing had the proper equipment during these 2 or 3 days. We wanted to identify that if in fact a Schiller Park goes up in flame, a Rosemont goes up in flame, or an Oakwood comes up in flame, we have teams to react, to assist. And that's what we do. It's mutual aid. That's what the police and fire is all about. Thank God, it didn't come out to any of the suburbs. It was contained and controlled by the city of Chicago within the city. But the intelligence did say that there were possibilities that it could go out to an Oak Brook, where you have Fortune 500 companies, Rosemont or Des Plaines, where you have the O'Hare interchange area, you have the casino. And then we also found out that there were individuals that came in from Denmark and reserved the hotel rooms in Schiller Park. So we had them right at the back door. In Forest Park, or I'm sorry, in Riverside, we found a hut in a forest reserve that was from the anarchists. So it was nearby. But during these 2 or 3 days, there were incidents that occurred in Elmhurst, Forest Park, Melrose Park, Lombard, Rosemont, and Lyle. When I say incidents, they reported to the FBI, to the state police, and to the city of Chicago that they discovered suspicious packages. There were issues on the railroad, but it was all contained. No one was arrested, but we did find packages. We did find, I believe, backpacks, but nothing that was a threat in nature. So Broadview was ready, and our surrounding towns are ready. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm excited for what happened as it relates to the collaboration we had with the other agencies, and it was something that they even said that it was never done before as it relates to communication between the departments.
You had some joint training exercises too.
Right, we had joint training exercises in the old St. Joe's High School in Westchester. We had all the police departments there. We trained on riot control, crowd control. So when you saw the Chicago Police Department dressed as, or the State Police and or Chicago dressed as Ninja Turtles, we kind of did the same thing with the helmets and the clubs. And how do we listen to commands, and we have to do everything at the same time. So a lot of training went into that as well. As it relates to the helmets. So there's a program out there called Law Enforcement Support Office. Section 1033 of the fiscal year, or of fiscal year 1997, National Defense Authorization Act authorizes the Secretary of Defense to transfer excess Department of Defense personal property to federal, state, local law enforcement agencies. What this does, these participating members, Broadview has been a member for a while, to improve its capabilities, expand its patrol coverage, while saving the American taxpayer. So, we in the police department, as well as the fire department, as well as Public Works, we have acquired from this LESO program, which is part of the Department of Defense, equipment. I acquired the kind of Oakley sunglasses, brand new for my officers. The fire chief will talk about what he's acquired. We acquired computers, desktop computers, laptops, projectors. These are those overhead projectors. 2 Humvees for free. 1 dump truck for free. A cleaner stem press for free. It's a big, and you could probably talk more about it, it's a big cleaner that Public Work has for graffiti removal and whatever else we need it for. And then he'll talk about the defibrillators. So, the savings that we have saved the village of Broadview in the last month and a half has been on $300,000. So we have 33 laptops, we have 15 desktops. So right now I've equipped the entire police department with newer desktops than what we had. I think we had like 10 or 15-year-old desktops. Now these desktops are 3 years old. And you know technology every day. I mean, it could be you buy it today and it's old tomorrow. But it's newer for us, it's faster for us. I've now ordered, I believe, and it's been approved, because there's an approval process. You have to go on at 3 o'clock in the morning. But it's not just Broad, it's nationwide. All public safety looks into this to see what's out there. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, Officer Costa goes on the computer and bids on it. And we put our ID number on it, and now we have to wait for an approval process. There's 4 or 5 approval processes. And at the end, if it's approved by this department, which is the Department of Defense, we get it. So out of $300,000, I believe we've spent $500 or $600 in shipping, because we have to ship it if it's not in this area, or we have to go pick it up. Obviously, the gas is on the cost for that. So that's what it's cost right now on that. I'll get into the Humvee in a second. But why don't you go into what you acquired?
The fire department right now, we've received 1 defibrillator monitor, which is identical to the one we purchased last year for the ambulance. Just that 1 defibrillator, the list price is $34,000 and change, $500 and some odd dollars. So we just received that last week. That'll be getting put on the fire truck to use once I get it certified. It's ready to go. We received pulse oximeters, which are a small device that fits on your fingertip. It tells us how much oxygen is in your bloodstream. Those are approximately $650 a piece, and we received 6 of those at no cost. I think it cost $20 to get them shipped out here. So, I also received safety glasses for the guys. What else? We're in the process of trying to get another defibrillator as well. That was just approved last week for a Spiromatic machine, which we're required by OSHA every year to get what's called fit testing because of the masks that we wear. So to comply with OSHA, we have to go through a fit test process. Right now, we have to borrow one of those machines from another municipality, someone in the area. That's if they've got it available. Now we just got approved for 1 brand new $600 or about $6,700, $6,500 piece of equipment, and we've got 2. So again, a lot of money that we've been saving. Basically, all we have to do is pay for shipping of these items. Like the chief said, we're over $300,000 in equipment just in a matter of over about a month and a half. What we acquired already that we actually have on site already. So. been members of this, or knew about it for years. It just happened over the last few years. You have to pay an annual fee. I believe it's $400 to be a member of this. It fell off the table. Andy Hamilton, who we hired back in February as a grant writer, brought it to our attention. I didn't know anything about it. I'm sure Chief DeGuerra knew about it. But he brought it back to our attention, said this is out there, you guys should research it. Chief DeGuerra looked into it, found out that Broadview was a member in the past. We just had to update and renew all our fees for that. Once we did, it was off to the races. The grant writer came in, taught myself, Chief DeGuerra, Officer Casca, how the system works, how to use it, the process, the paperwork, and we've been off to the races with it ever since. So,
I'm the keeper of the inventory. It's assigned to me. I sign for it. I'm responsible for it. And the criteria for these items is that it belongs to the department. It belongs to the police department under my authority. However, I can't transfer it to another agency within the village if there's going to be a nexus with the police. Public safety, we have the fire. So as it relates to public works, we acquired the dump truck, and it's not easy. You have to justify to the federal government why you need these things, and there's an approval process. So the dump truck, we justified it why we needed it. It was approved and we received it. And that dump truck will be used for snow, garbage, whatever public works needs is for, but it will be used for public service. The other item, which was the cleaner stem press, that's to remove any graffiti. So again, that has to do with public service or public safety. So that's the nexus there.
that's an I believe it was $8,500 for that. You'll probably start seeing it around town, I'm sure. Director Ames, I mean, that's brand new.
$18,000.
$18,000, I'm sorry. It's got 15 hours on it. It's all it's ever been used. If you look at it, it's brand new. They can come up. So basically a high-powered pressure washer.
The dump truck, it's an $89,000 dump truck. It's huge. And so I think this is great for the village. As it relates to the Humvees. So why did we purchase Humvees? These Humvees are $50,000 each. The Humvee that was selected for the police department only has 19,000 miles. Was it used in a war or so? It may have. I don't know. It runs great. Our mechanic looked at it. It's great. But as a military vehicle, you have to now adapt it to a police vehicle. And as so, you have to spend some money on adapting to a police vehicle. The money is, I don't want to be driving around in the village of Broadview with a camouflage type of vehicle. We wanted to use that for NATO, to have it ready. If in fact we do get deployed or activated, I wanted to have that vehicle ready. So what we did is we painted it. We painted it black. And once we painted it black, we then put our logo, Broadview Police Department, on it. And I don't know if you've seen it around the village. It is awesome. Especially when you light it up, it lights up the area. Right now, we have other police departments that are asking about it. They want to know how they can get that type of vehicle. Because that vehicle could be used for various functions. The functions we're going to use it here is our special operations functions. So whenever we do any type of overt street suppression, whether it's in Maywood, Bellwood, Broadview, whatever it takes, we're going to be using that vehicle. We'll probably be 4 deep in the car, and we're going to go after these drug dealers, these gangbangers, in that type of vehicle. Secondary, we could use it for special events, parades, take it to the schools, have the kids look at it. It's a real good community relations type of vehicle, so they can see what the police use to combat proliferation of drugs, guns, and gangs. And the severe weather aspect, the flooding, the snow, etc. Also, we could go off-road, like a terrain vehicle. So it's it's the best thing that we can do. Now, I have the fire chief talk about what he wants to do with the, his company.
The second one, again, Chief DeGarrett inquired too, he's giving me the second one. One of the needs that we see for this type of vehicle is in the past, with the severe snow that we've had in the last couple of years, we couldn't get the ambulance down in a lot of these streets, even though they were plowed, the snow would come back so quickly, the ambulances aren't set up to go in that type of environment. We'll now be able to transport, at least get the ambulance as close as we can, and then bring the Humvee in to at least, it'll have all the same equipment on it that the ambulance has on it. This defibrillator that we just purchased, or did purchase, acquired through LISO for free. Various other, the exact same equipment that's on the ambulance will be inside that Humvee. That way we can get back into your house, even though there's a flood or snow. At least start treatment on you and then remove you from the area in the Humvee and then get you out to the ambulance and get transported. That's one use. I'm looking into, I just received some information on it today about putting a skid in the back. On this skid will be a pump, a water pump with a 200-gallon water tank and a hose reel. What does that mean for us? That gives us a quick attack vehicle to go in. We do it for the large area of Forest Reserve on 25th and Surman. We've had many fires back in there in the past. For us to get back in there with a civilian street type vehicle, we can't get back in there. So we have to hand carry buckets, fire extinguishers to get deep in, back in those woods. Now we'll be able to drive back there, we'll have a pump with water on it, and extinguish fires there. Also along the railroad tracks, we also get fires from, as the trains go by, sometimes the wheels click off hot pieces. In a dry spell, we get some brush fires along the railroad, we'll be able to use it for that. Also, with our contract with Lila Hospital, they have 3 parking decks over there, parking garage. We can't get our fire engine in there up to the top, on any of the floors of the parking garage. So what we have to do now is connect our hoses to a standpipe system, pump the water up through a pipe up to the different floors, and then hook hoses up on each of those floors to put a fire out. By that time, it's a time-consuming process. By that time, instead of 1 car burning, now we've got 5 or 10 cars burning. This vehicle allows, we can drive right into the parking garage, at least, at the very least, keep the fire in check while the firemen are making their connections to the piping so we can extinguish the fire. So these are just some of the examples. Again, severe weather, extraordinary circumstances with the Forest Reserve. These are just some examples of how this vehicle is going to be used by the fire department.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief DeGarrett. Questions from the board, starting with Trustee Marino?
I'm very excited by the idea of being able to tap into this resource. As you're talking about laptops, I wish we would have known about this prior to buying the iPads, because I think laptops would have been, I mean, there's certain limitations with this, but I think it's a great thing.
Thank you, Trustee Marino. Trustee Morris?
None, good job.
Trustee McGreer?
Yes, Chief, first of all, I wanted to commend you and Chief Gardner for tapping into this resource with LISO. And also got to commend Officer Costa. I did speak with him in depth about the whole process. Part of this that the Chief didn't mention is building a relationship with the resources at LESO. And it makes no sense for us to get equipment that's garbage. So at 3 a.m., it's more than a notion to get up and check out what equipment and what items are available. And then he's got to go and verify through his relationship that he's built to the condition of the equipment and complete with photos. He mentioned what is it, $600 we spent on shipping so far? If we spend $100 shipping garbage, that's no cost savings at all to the village. So part of this process is verifying the equipment is good so we can get good stuff for the price that we're paying. So excellent job on that. Chief, are you able to have one of the officers pull up the Hummer so we can see exactly what it looks like and light it up for it tonight? Sure. Right in front there? Thank you. That concludes my questions.
Okay, Trustee Harvey?
I would like to do the same and say thank you to both chiefs and as well as the grant writer for pointing this out to us as something that we missed. However, I would have loved to have this information 2 weeks ago, and we probably would have had a much better meeting of the units with us for discussion. But I do thank you for sharing that information with us now, thus making the next part of our process a lot easier. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Harvard. Trustee Benson?
Oh, I love the program. I'm so glad you all were able to find it for the village, and I'm pretty sure you all are enjoying it. So thanks for getting that, those resources for us, all right?
Trustee Abraham?
My comment is this, to commend the two chiefs and again, the grant writers, Trustee Harvard had said to point this out, obviously to update our equipment and just to increase it. I mean, that's awesome that you guys took advantage of the program. So again, congratulations.
I don't have a whole lot to say. I think the trustee said it all, but I would like to point out that the grant writer that we actually hired last year that brought all of this to us or reminded us that we had access to it cost the village $1,000 for a year. $1,000 for the grant writer that brought this to us for the entire year. So he's to be commended for just this one act alone justified the $1,000. So that being said, Madam Clerk.
Our next village officer, Matt Ames, MFA Construction, Public Works Department.
Matt Ames is not here today. Matt Ames had a death in his family. He probably will be back for the next board meeting. McGreer, do you have a report from Mr. Ames' department?
Yes, sir. It's with heavy heart that we send our condolences, thoughts, and wishes to the Ames family for his loss. And I do have a report for Director Ames. As of now, the Public Works Department is continuing to clean and repair the storm and sanitary lines. Currently, they are on 20th Avenue in the Garden area. They started out on 9th Avenue in Hollywood, working their way westward, and by the end of the summer, they will complete all of the storm drains. So far, approximately 6 storm basins have been replaced, and another 5 basins were repaired. The tree planting program that we have started, so far we planted 8 trees. Public Works will continue that until the line item on that budget has been exhausted, roughly $25,000 for a year. We've begun the sidewalk replacement with the season first pour scheduled for this week, and it will continue until that budget line item has been exhausted. Public Works has demolished and cleaned the site at 17th and Fillmore, which Chief Gardner spoke on earlier. That was a village-owned property that was used for fire training, and that building has been demolished. It's now a vacant lot. We can thank Public Works for that. Because of the efficiency of our water operators and the new soft prime pump, we have not experienced a water main break since February 2012.
Fantastic.
I think that's excellent with all the money that we were spending with water main breaks. The soft prime pump, basically, instead of flipping the switch on and then this huge pressure of water shooting through the pipelines, the soft prime pump, you turn it on and it eases the water out so that there's no undue pressure on the lines causing possible breaks in the weaker sections of the piping. So we look to, crossing our fingers, knocking on wood, that continues, so we can continue to save the spendings on that. On Garden Road, there was a fire hydrant that was damaged by a motorist in an accident that was replaced, and an insurance claim has been filed. We will recover that expense in full. Department personnel training is monthly, and we have no injuries reports within the last 12 months. In Public Works, safety is encouraged daily, and that is something that we hope that all departments are continuing their regular training. We are compiling a list for tree trimming so as to justify the leasing of a bucket truck this year. In the past, you may have seen during the summertime the bucket truck, otherwise called the High Ranger, the guys sawing off the trees and trimming them where there's dead branches and overhangs that infringe on traffic. So that list is being compiled, and it looks like we're going to be doing that rental this year as well. 3 trees were removed because of hazardous or safety concerns, and I know the director has a list of some more. I report to both director Ames and Commissioner Upshaw on overgrown grass that is either viewed by myself or one of the trustees or residents report to me. So as Commissioner Upshaw spoke earlier on, it is a process. Because you see grass today and reported today, doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to get cut down the same day or the next day. It is a process, and we're diligently continually report on it and work on getting that cleared. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes the report for Public Works.
Thank you, Trustee McGreer.
Questions?
I don't think so. Anybody? Madam Clerk?
Item number 6, communications, we have none. Item number 7, unfinished business. Consideration of an ordinance amending section 2-6-1, Board created organization for Chapter 6 zoning board of appeals of Title II boarding permission to allow a stipend of $40 per member for zoning board of appeals meetings for the village of Broadview, county of Cook, state of Illinois.
Motion to table.
Okay, it's probably motion by Trustee McGreer and probably second by Trustee Benson to table this item
To the next board meeting, please.
to the board meeting of June
June
4th. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. This item will be tabled until the next board meeting of June 4th.
Number 7B, consideration of an ordinance to establish a comprehensive adult entertainment licensing standard for the village of Broadview, county of Cook, state of Illinois.
Make a motion to table.
Second.
It's been probably motion by Trustee Benson, probably second by Trustee Abraham to table agenda item B. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? For the next board meeting, June 6th. 4th, I'm sorry, June 4th.
Item number C, 7C, consideration of an ordinance approving the rezoning of certain parcels within the village text amendment to the village zoning code and a map amendments to the village zoning map for the village of Broadview, county of Cook, state of Illinois.
Motion to table as well. June 4th.
Second.
Been motion by Trustee McGreer and second by Trustee Morris to table item C. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? This agenda item is also tabled.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if there was a full there.
Excuse me?
There was one no.
Somebody said no.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
For item C.
Yeah.
Trustee Abraham?
No.
Trustee Benson?
No.
Trustee Harvard?
No.
Trustee McGreer?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Brown Marino?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
I vote no, because I think we need to talk about it. I think it's something that needs to be discussed. So the motion to table fails. I'll entertain another motion.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Probably motion by Trustee Abraham and probably second by Trustee Benson to approve item C. Let me say this, item C is just a zoning issue that we've had numerous discussions on. We had this discussion in the last board meeting, and we had a town hall meeting that specifically addressed this agenda item. It's been a topic of discussion for a great deal of time. It's caused a lot of us a lot of consternation, a lot of aggravation. And the ultimate result to be obtained from item C is to put the village in a better position to be able to address concerns at certain locations. I'll defer to the attorney in a minute to give more details on that. But for the members of the board, and I don't know why we would even consider to table it and not at least discuss it at this point in time. Mr. Attorney, would you clarify exactly what this particular agenda item is for the members of the board, because it appears that some of them may be a little confused.
Basically, we've gone through this, we had 2 zoning hearings, both published with notice, April 30th and May 3rd. Second, we had in front of you last time on the board agenda, but we tabled at that point in time to have a town hall meeting, which was had, many people were in attendance at that meeting to discuss it. And now we're here today before the board on the approval ordinance. Basically, what we're doing is we are cleaning up both the manufacturing district as well as the office industrial district as it relates to the types of uses that can go. We eliminated many of the noxious uses that are associated with heavy industry. Also, we created a manufacturing district, or the zoning board proposed that we created a manufacturing district along 25th and 27th near Parks Avenue, Parks Drive. Every time. All right, so that's a structure. Another portion of it is to clean up our adult use ordinance and to create a section of that to be a permitted use and to eliminate special use in the OI district, or any use for adult use in the OI district. That's the basic structure of the ordinance, and again, I can get in great detail as we've done 3 occasions already, but hopefully I can get in greater detail. Obviously, we've had spent some discussion on.
I will say this, I do see that there's some new people in the room that may not have heard the whole story here on what's going on. And they came with a preconceived notion that we're attempting to put a certain type of entity in town, which is not the goal of this board. And I think that it's in our best interest to let everybody out there know exactly what's going on. Some of you have been here through all of the other meetings, and some of you have heard all of the explanations and know exactly what's going on. But ultimately, absent such legislation, we run the risk of entities of certain types being put next door to schools, across the street from your house, and in your own neighborhood, in your backyard, by churches, by cemeteries, and what have you. So the whole purpose of this rezoning is to say, okay, well, fine, Mr. Business Owner, if you want to put that type of business in Broadview, because if they take it to court under the First Amendment rights, they would have a right to operate. But we get to dictate where they're going to go, you know, and limit their exposure. And that's what this particular ordinance addresses. The president of the zoning board was here at one of the meetings and articulated it tremendously. We had a zoning expert here that articulated it to the greatest degree possible, all the way down to the umpteenth degree. Everybody's questions were answered, and all of the naysayers and all the people that had the same objections to some of you in the crowd were here, and none of them returned today knowing it was on the agenda because they had all their questions answered. So the questions were all answered. I don't see any of those detractors in here today that were here then. So, you know, and I don't know what happened with some members of the board, if they forgot what this was about or what's going on. But ultimately, this is strictly a zoning issue, and it's for us to put ourselves in a position so that we have a better footing if in case some entity wanted to come to the Village of Broadview, for us to be able to have a position, a legal position that would put us in a good light in front of a judge. Is that the best way to say it, Chief?
Yeah, the main goal here is to ensure that there can't be a zoning challenge based on an adult use coming into town. The reason that is important is that we don't want to expend extreme amounts of attorney fees defending that type of case. And as a few experts that we've had here in the zoning hearings at the town hall meeting, et cetera, have all testified to the fact that this is the type of planning that they do in this type of industry. The surrounding towns here all have this type of view. We're not reinventing the wheel here. They did a study out in DuPage County at 39 of the 42 locations and municipalities that they polled determined that it was all based on exactly how we operated our ordinance or created our ordinance.
And add to that, if in fact we do not have legislation, or a town doesn't have legislation such as this, an entity such as that finding a location that meets the bulk requirements of the business and applied for a license would basically be obligated to be allowed in at some point in time. And that's the challenge that you have. But they've got to meet the bulk requirements. There's certain criteria that they must meet, different businesses must meet. But you don't want a factory next to a residential house. You know, you don't want a factory or something, or a business of that entity, or a gas station next to your home or next to a school. That there's certain things are just not compatible. And so the idea is for us to be able to put certain things like businesses and like areas and put them away from the general population. That's probably the easiest way to put it.
The only thing I can tell is that we did, I mean, the ordinance has been prepared, and this may be some of the objections. We did add a little bit more legislative history to the ordinance, so that's the only other issue. That,
you did or didn't?
I did.
You did.
I did. Just more or less legal, reverberation of what's on in the past. But basically, yeah, that's the structure of it. Yeah, I can answer any more questions from the board.
Can you just reiterate? I'm sorry, I'm jumping in.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
we're going to go through the questions. I wanted to get the explanation out.
Oh, okay.
Let me start with Trustee Marino at the end with questions and comments on this particular agenda item.
Sorry.
Okay. Trustee Marino?
Well, let me say first that the reason that I voted for tabling was because of the new language. And if there was a trustee that felt that they wanted more time to absorb it, I certainly want to give them that opportunity. The only other thing I'll say in terms of why I was in favor of tabling is I have been requesting to see the other adult use legislation, have not been provided. I realize that it's not complete, but as I've said, I'd like to see the sausage being made. So to me, the two do kind of go hand in hand, and I was more comfortable tabling it until we were able to address both at the same time. Although I am prepared to vote on this if but that's the reason that I voted to table.
Are you just a clarification, are you comfortable with the new language that's been drafted?
I'm comfortable with the new language in this ordinance.
Very good.
What I'm talking about was letter B, the other part of this that I was...
I understand.
Right.
I just want to make sure it's aligned.
No, I'm comfortable with what's...
Trustee Morris?
My concerns were the same with B, and by Kevin saying that he didn't really understand.
Well, you're looking at two separate issues here, but okay, I get it.
Do you want me to explain licensing standards?
Well, we're on item C. We're not on item B.
Understood.
We've already tabled item B, so we can't even talk about that right now. It was tabled.
Okay.
So, and that's unfortunate because we needed to talk about it, because that would have answered some more questions for the population out here. And that's unfortunate, but we can talk after the meeting about that. But let me move on to Trustee McGreer on item C, because that's the subject matter right now is item C. So let's get item C addressed. Item B is a moot point until the next board meeting. Questions, Trustee McGreer?
Yes, sir. Obviously, Mr. Mayor, I've attended all the meetings regarding this. I'm fully aware of what's going on with the ordinance, and am prepared to vote on it today. My questions, again, had to do with the prior item, which we won't discuss today. But I'm clear with what we're doing with C and ready to vote on that.
Trustee Harper.
I just would like you to reiterate some of the language that's in the ordinance, examples like how maybe everybody doesn't know how large Broadview is, so the Illinois law that says, what business can operate by what business within whatever radius, and also to clarify the 1,000-foot or 1,000-feet rule that's in place as well.
Certainly. The Illinois statute related to adult use in Cook County has changed dramatically, over the last 4 years. It keeps on changing, keep on adding things of most substance. In 2010, I don't know the exact date, they changed it. The Illinois statute says that any adult use cannot be closer than 1 mile from any of the protected use, including a church, a cemetery, a
Public housing.
School, forest preserve, and
Parks.
and a park. So basically, that's what the Illinois law says today. Okay, that's for any new adult use business in town. Prior to that, it was 1,000 feet, and that was adopted by the town.
That's it.
One of the changes that we made in the zoning, as you're aware, is that we would tie it to Illinois law, so whatever, we're not a home rule municipality, and therefore we cannot act in contravention or against an Illinois statute. So if the Illinois law says it's 200 feet,
It's 200 feet.
we can't decide it's going to be 500 feet because it will be acting contrary to the Illinois statute. So to avoid confusion and us constantly changing the ordinance, we tied it to the rule of Illinois. Presently, that's what it is. The other part of that was that we have a part of the ordinance is that an adult use cannot operate within 1,000 feet of another adult use. So that's the other aspect of it that you were referring to.
Okay.
I mean, there's a variety of definitions of an adult use that are laid out. I mean, what's sort of controlling here is that the United States Supreme Court, Illinois Supreme Court, they've all sort of created an opinion that an adult use is a legitimate use that has to be provided for in the municipality, in any municipality or any county. So the question is how do you provide for them? And you have to put them in. And what the experts have been telling us, and all the studies have been telling us, is that proper planning dictates permitted use. And that's why, like I said, the 4 municipalities surrounding us, Berkeley, Hillside, I don't think exactly from us, Bellwood, Westchester, all have instituted that same permitted use sort of zoning planning as is consistent with what we're doing. Interestingly, there is no adult uses within those 4 municipalities that I'm aware of. So basically, that's the structure of how everything is working and moving forward, and that's how they're trending it. The other way that they've been sort of moving forward with is creating this in an industrial area, like our manufacturing district, and that's the location in which most of these are placed. And the courts have routinely held that that's okay. That's a good place for them to operate. If they should operate within the limits.
Thank you for the explanation, Mr. Attorney. Trustee Benson?
Actually, she already asked the question that I wanted to make sure that they knew. I wanted you to reiterate that this is an ordinance that we have to have, right?
Yes, we can plan however we feel is in the best interest of the village as it relates to this, and this, we believe, is something that the village must have, yes.
Can we go over the ordinance that we currently have? Would that be overstepping what we're talking about? I don't think so. To let them know exactly what we have, I think would help.
Currently, we have a 1,000-foot rule, and these uses were allowed, adult uses were allowed in as a special use in all the OI. David, do you want me to get the map or not?
No, you don't need the map. I mean, we're not even going to all those details. We'll be here all night.
Got it. All of the office industrial area that was allowed as a special use prior to this in the manufacturing district, the prior manufacturing, or the existing manufacturing district, it was a conditional use. So there was no permitted use. However, if they went through the special use process, they would be able to operate if they could meet the requirements, they could operate within the same manufacturing district that we're talking about today. The difference is that once there's a special use, there is some level of discretion that they say is put into it. That's why permitted use is sort of the ability. It says you can't challenge this under ordinance. It's available to you in this area. You can't go to another area and say, hey, we want to operate here. No, here's the location if you should choose to operate. And obviously, they have to, as any other business, they have to find within that district a location which to operate. Is that clear?
And they still must meet the requirements.
And they still have to meet all the requirements, like parking, lighting, setbacks, height, and so forth.
But I believe I read in our, with our codes that they could be, 550 feet away from a home?
Yeah, it has to be at least 500 feet from the home.
And so now we're saying it needs to be 1,000.
We're not saying anything, we're
Or
saying,
now.
we're saying that it's gonna have to be consistent with Illinois law.
Okay, that's correct, which is more than what we currently have.
Well, actually, it's even more than that because you're actually
Right.
defining the area.
My point is that what it is now is not good enough.
It's not sufficient, that's
Right,
correct.
that's my point. All right, I'm done.
Right. Trustee Abraham?
No, I just, my comment is that I want to thank our village attorney for having that town hall meeting, bringing that expert in to help educate us as the board to render a decision here tonight, as well as educating our residents here. Obviously, we're here to protect the village and the community. So again, I want to thank you and the experts you brought in. It took time for that night. I believe it was like a 2-3 hour meeting. So you provided a lot of information. I'm glad you're doing it here again to give a better explanation as well. So thank you.
I'm not sure, but it was the mayor's idea for the town hall meeting.
Yeah, I committed to that after the last board meeting.
Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
There is another item that I just realized. I started thinking about it when you were talking about the use table, and that there were changes made to the use table besides the adult use, other types of uses that were dropped.
That's correct.
As I'm looking at the language of this ordinance, and when it talks about the use table, the only thing it references is the change in the adult use, but it doesn't reference any of the other changes.
Do you have the other ones in there?
I don't see anything here where it would become part of another exhibit or something else.
It does.
We had a list of changes.
I'm sorry?
So did we have a list of changes?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's attached as Exhibit B to the findings of fact. That was one of the zoning. What we did is to make it simple and make it for a clean record. What we've done is incorporate all of the zoning findings, obviously, in addition to all the exhibits that were submitted. There were 11 exhibits, one of which was Exhibit B, which was the use table that enumerated each and every use. I can bring this over to Trustee Brown if you like. It basically enumerates all the uses in the OI district, all the uses in the manufacturing
It should be in
district,
there.
and it says what the existing.
You didn't present that to the village board today? They don't have it today? Is that what?
Right,
One of the attachments.
Right, you're talking about this
Right.
the attachment as part of Exhibit C?
Can I approach?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is,
That's in the email.
yeah, this is part of all the exhibits that were attached.
No, I'm familiar with that. What I'm
He
saying
had all the exhibits in there.
is that in the, on page 8, Article 5 at the bottom, approval of text amendments to the village district and manufacturing, the OI manufacturing district use
Trustee
table.
Brown, can you hold on one second?
Sure.
That page.
Yeah, let's all go there. Okay.
Okay, sorry, page 8. Which section?
So Article 5?
Let's all get there.
I already know what's there.
Which one is she talking about? Because we got a lot of.
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff, so.
Which exhibit?
It is
No, it's on the paper copies that you
yeah, we
received.
just received the paper copies, this copy here.
Okay, I still want to get us,
This is all, we just printed out another copy for you.
I want to get us the difference.
So it's section 15, which is page 8.
Right.
All right, that's why I'm getting both of them. Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to be sure that we include the other changes to the use table.
Yeah, here's what I did with this, so we didn't have a even longer ordinance. Look at page 9. It indicates, if you look at the page 9, 1, 2, 3, it's third line down, it says adult use to be included as a use in the OI district. Petitioner has granted its request for text amendments to the district use table under section 10-4-4, including, comma, among other changes to the said district use table, comma, allowing adult use. So we have incorporated all the exhibits. I mean, it's not a problem. If you want me to be more specific, I can easily do that. But that was meant, that language meant to say that there's other changes. The reason I did that is I didn't want to have a 10-page document going over each change to be used so we can reference the table. Why don't I just do this? If this is something that you want, I can just reference the use table as Exhibit D to the zoning findings of fact.
You know what, after listening to all this, excuse me, everybody. After listening to all this, why don't we just request an amended motion from the person that made the motion to include the table to this particular, because it's not like you're creating this thing to look at over and over and over. You're going to do it one time. It's going to be codified. It's going to be part of the record, and we need to have the list qualified. Would that satisfy you, Trustee Marino? Because I think to your point, we should have the whole list, for the whole
Right,
thing.
and when we send the ordinance to Sterling,
Have a list and have each and every business identified specifically. Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Would you please, I recommend that you amend the motion to include the table.
I'd like to amend the motion to include the table, Exhibit D.
Include it. Who's second? Who's the second? You the second?
We can have a new second.
You can second.
I don't have to.
Would you please?
Yeah, please. Yes, I'll second.
Okay, motion by Trustee Abraham and second by Trustee Benson. The new motion will be to approve this agenda item inclusive of the actual table itself. Do I have any other comments, Trustee Abraham? This has been a long, arduous process for us trying to get something that seems simple to me done, but it is what it is. At this point, what we have in front of us is a zoning change that's going to limit and restrict certain types of businesses into certain types of areas within the village of Broadview. That's where we are. Madam Clerk, I'll take a roll call, please.
Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Benson?
Yes.
Trustee Howard?
yes.
Trustee McGriff?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Brown Marino?
Yes.
And that motion carries.
Item number 8, new business. Consideration to approve a business license application for Haley Beauty Supply at 1701 West Roosevelt Road.
I make a motion to table.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Benson and properly seconded by Trustee Abraham to table this agenda item. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it.
Item number 8B, consideration of a business license application for ISSI Shoe Gallery at 2140 South 17th Avenue.
I make a motion to approve ISIS Shoe Gallery.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Benson, properly seconded by Trustee Abraham to approve ISIS Shoe Gallery. Do I have any questions or comments? Well, let me ask who's got the licenses? Trustee Benson, you want to tell us what this is?
Sure. I just want to make a correction, of course, on ordinances. ISIS Shoe Gallery. They are coming to Broadview at 2140 South 17th Avenue. They just want to sell shoes and accessories. They say here, top-of-the-line quality in women's shoes and accessories. The selection will range from the basics of comfortable shoes. They will purchase through sales representatives and manufacturers to fit their customer base. As far as their inspections, they have all of them completed. I do have all of the information. I spoke with the owner today, and I did request proof of the FEIN number and drove that proof up here. I have it here. They placed it in my box if any of the other trustees want to see it. And that's it. Is that owner here tonight?
Is ISIS here? I don't see him.
All right. That's all I have.
Have any questions or comments from the board, starting with Trustee Marino?
Nope.
Trustee Morris?
No.
Trustee McGrill? No. Trustee Harvey?
I would just like to say I'm happy about this because I love shoe shopping, so I can't wait till you get here.
Trustee Benson?
I want to welcome ISIS to the community.
And Trustee Abraham? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, ISIS Shoe Gallery is here. Motion carries. Next
Item number
agenda item.
8C, Consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 9 Municipal Finance of Title I Administration of the Municipal Zone to create a minority and locally owned business participation program for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly motioned by trustee Abraham and properly seconded by trustee Hardwick to approve this ordinance. This particular ordinance mirrors many other cities. Let me know when y'all done. This particular ordinance mirrors many other cities and municipalities that have minority and local business participation in construction things going on within their towns. And it requires that if a contractor or a developer comes into your town, that they use a certain percentage of minority and or local businesses combined. Mr. Attorney, you want to add anything to that?
No, it's pretty self-explanatory, with the exception of the, if someone uses this, if someone comes in to bid with the Village of Broadview and they have a minority or their local business, if they made a certain percentage, at least 51% for their local business, that'll be given consideration at the bid process. In case there's two equal bids, that'll be given some consideration. It's just a good faith effort to, get our local municipality, our businesses involved in any projects that the village is doing, and then obviously any minority-based businesses as well.
Okay.
Chicago's the big one that did this.
I know. Right, the city of Chicago is the biggest one. Questions or comments from the board, trustee Marino?
Well, first of all, while I do applaud the motion to approve so that we can discuss it, I would hope that we do not take action on this today. When I got this piece of legislation from the attorney, the email said there's a lot here to absorb, but this will give us something to start our discussion with, and that he was going to be making some changes and we'd get it before tonight. I haven't received anything, with any changes. That's the reason I didn't bring this up prior to the meeting. But there's a lot of things about this that I think need to be addressed, starting with the ordinance as presented says that any contract for supplies, equipment, repair work, personal service, where the total cost exceeds $25,000 would require putting it out to bid. In the state statute municipal code, the threshold is $20,000.
Yeah, that's correct.
So right off the bat, that was the first thing that I noticed. I can go through item after item after item. Some of my concerns with this, it appears that we are actually changing our spending authority. In the section where it talks about that whenever the total cost does not exceed $1,000, the finance director without previous authorization shall cause the same to be purchased on their order. Which would indicate that, that sounds like we're changing the spending authority without having to go to bid, without having to get board approval. I'm concerned about the idea that this entire program will be facilitated by the Public Works Director for a lot of reasons. And I'm going to try and keep it brief. It's almost 10 o'clock. And I'm hoping, in fact, I'm hoping that we do end up eventually tabling this. There's another section in here where we're requiring any company that wants to do work with the village to open up its books for our inspection to make sure that they really are a minority or locally owned business, and to the extent that they are. I don't know how that would go over with companies that may want to come in and do business with Broadview, that we would be required to, they would be required to open up their books. And it really isn't specific about exactly what it is that we're going to be looking at. I'd like a better clarification of exactly what it's meant to be a locally owned business, because according to the ordinance that I see, it's simply, it's a business that is in Broadview. Now, we have some businesses, for example, Climaton, that is in, it's a Broadview business, it has a location on Gardner, but they have other locations and their corporate offices are Oak Brook. Is, you know, what does it take to actually be a locally owned business? So they, and I'm trying to rush through my questions because there are a lot of them and this isn't even all of them. But there's a number of things that I think should be addressed. What I would like to suggest, this ordinance would actually, especially to the extent that it's being administered by the Public Works Department, actually would affect the Finance Committee, the Street Sidewalks Committee, and Water Drainage and Health. So what I would like to suggest is that we hold a joint committee meeting with the 3 chairs of those 3 committees to discuss this further and get into some of the details about this legislation.
Yeah, generally speaking, Mr. Mayor, Board, I think the discourse is good on this. It's sort of a new program that we're instituting in the Broadview, so additional comments are obviously welcome. We can talk about them.
There's one other thing I wanted to say about it, and then I'll stop. The other thing is that right now, I don't know if most people realize this, but right now our village does a lot of, I see us working with a lot of Broadview-based companies and a lot of minority-owned companies that are from outside Broadview, but they're minority-owned. So I would like for people to walk away from this evening with the understanding that right now our village is already addressing using locally owned and minority-owned businesses.
Correct.
So, and with that, I'll...
Touche. Correct. All right. Thank you, Trustee Marino. Trustee Morris?
No.
Trustee McGreer?
None.
Trustee Harvard?
Yes, I think, well, no question, but just that Trustee Brown Marino asked a lot of the questions that, you know, I was going to ask earlier when I asked to talk to the attorney, but we were going to start the meeting. But I did second the motion so that we could put it out here so that stuff gets discussed versus being tabled and then we don't have the opportunity to talk about it in front of everybody. So just to justify why I second the motion.
Thank you, Trustee Harvard. Trustee Benson?
No comments, I just want to table.
Okay. Trustee Abraham?
Obviously, I made the motion to get this out here for discussion with all due respect to my fellow trustees. So obviously, you can see there's some additional issues and questions that we do have concerns. Again, Trustee Brown Marino did bring up some that I had as well that I needed to get into.
Yeah, it's a very comprehensive ordinance, and we'll just take a couple cracks at it.
I'll entertain a motion to table this at this time.
Since I made the original motion, I'll go ahead and make a motion to table it.
And I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? June 4th?
Yes.
June 4th.
Item number 8B, consideration of an ordinance accepting the lowest responsible bid and approving the contract to repair an HVAC system at the village fire station for the village of Broadview, County of the State of Illinois.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Property motion by Trustee Hargreaves, property second by Trustee Abraham to approve the air conditioning unit at the fire department. Questions or comments from the board? Trustee Marino?
Just that I noticed that the lowest responsible bidder was not the same as the lowest bidder when the bids were open. I inquired about that. There were some amendments that had to be made, and that's how Heat Engineering ended up as the lowest responsible bidder. So with that, that's my only comment.
Trustee Morris?
No.
Trustee McGreer?
Question, did the asbestos problem get resolved?
Yes, they're coming in next week, this Thursday.
Okay.
So I'm going to coordinate that with, the heat engineering.
Thank you.
Trustee Hargreaves?
No.
Trustee Benson?
None.
Trustee Abraham?
None.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Benson?
Yes.
Trustee Harvard?
Yes.
Trustee McGuire?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Brown Marino?
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to vote no only because of the lack of a budget, but I am so glad that the firemen are getting air conditioning.
Okay. And that motion carries. The ayes have it 5-1.
Item number 8, consideration of a motion to approve S9 Global Enterprise Inc. application for a grant for the facade program for the village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Properly motion by trustee Abraham, properly second by trustee McGuire. Who's got this one? Who's got the grant? Do you have it, Dave? What you got?
If I may,
Just for the record, for those of you that don't know, we have a facade program going on Roosevelt Road right now that we've asked businesses to partake of to clean up Roosevelt Road, make it more curbside appealing, and to make it more uniform.
that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We have a list of criteria for items that are eligible and items that are not. The applicant is S&I Global Enterprise, and they are asking for approximately $15,000. Now, I see they have representatives in the audience. You have two applications that were submitted. There was an original application, and then it was amended, and the current application is dated 12/30. I'm sorry, the current application is dated 4/30/12.
Is that the one that was in the email? That's not it.
And so, I don't know if the board has had a chance to review the packet, but I put the packet in regarding the facade program in your mailboxes back in March. There has to be something similar to the TIF agreement. There has to be an agreement between the board and the applicant, in this case, which is S&I Global Enterprises, as to how much the reimbursable grant will be. I think I attached the list of items that will qualify.
It was in the email.
And if you have any additional questions, they have representatives in the office, in the audience that can answer any questions that you may have at this time.
That's not. Questions? Stand up. Somebody stand up. One of you. Trustee Marino?
Well, first of all, the application that we received does not include all the information that we're supposed to be getting. And I'm looking at, it's not a numbered page, but submittal requirements, we're supposed to have the completed application, which we have, legal description of parcels, I know we have that on record. There's a disclosure of beneficiaries form that we don't have, a list of contractors to take part in improvements, and the business registration certificate. And then there's other items here. We were given sort of a list of what work they'd like to do, but without the type of specifications that we need, without any kind of figures, any dollar amounts with this. Now, the other thing, though, that I want to note is that the items here appear to be all included in what we approved in terms of the TIF assistance. Now, this facade program is also comes out of the Roosevelt Road TIF. At the time that we approved the TIF assistance, what we said is that we were capping the amount of TIF assistance from the Roosevelt Road TIF at $130,000. As I recall, the initial amount that was discussed with the board was $100,000, and then Mayor Jones asked that we increase it to $130,000. The facade program application and material that we received doesn't tell us, it doesn't give us any dollar amounts as to what it is that they're looking for from us, looking for now. So to me, the application is not complete. It doesn't include everything that we're expected to get with the application. We don't have any dollar amounts on what they're looking for, and we don't have any dollar amounts as to what we're capping here. Are we going for the full 30,000? Is it a lesser amount, et cetera?
I think you're missing a document, I think the packet here that I just saw has the dollar amount contained within it, so I don't know if there's...
Well, it's not something that we were given. And I would like the opportunity to compare that with the TIF agreement and what was presented to us with them. There's one other thing that I want to bring up, and that is, we were told at the last board meeting that when we've had zoning hearings that had to be continued and had to be renoticed and what have you, that the village is being reimbursed by the applicants for those additional costs. I did speak with the finance director, and I haven't had a chance yet to look through the miscellaneous receipt book, but I'm not aware of having been reimbursed, and I would like to see reimbursement for our additional costs before we're handing out more money as well. So those are my thoughts with this right now. I don't think that it's something that we're really ready to act on.
Couple things, in terms of the dollar amounts, I do apologize if it's not in your packets. I thought I had made a copy of that, but I do have the dollar amounts and for the different types of things that S&I Global Enterprises wanted to have done, such as the doors and the back doors and the small kitchen and that type of stuff. So I can forward that information to you. In terms of the TIF agreement, I don't know where that is in the process, and maybe the attorney can speak on that. But any additional information that you need, you can ask me, and I will get with S&I if it has not already been submitted to me, and I just didn't give it to you guys, just so it's logged down. It's not a problem. Just let me know what you want.
Thank you, Officer. Trustee Morris? Trustee Hargett?
No.
Trustee Benson?
No.
Trustee Abraham?
No.
Okay. So I've got the concerns from Trustee Marino down here, and that's Trustee McGreer walked out of the room for a minute. He should be back momentarily. Mr. Attorney, sir, can you address some of these concerns the questions that have been arisen?
I guess the question is, there was an excess, there was, in the development agreement, we agreed to provide development costs related to the TIF increment of $130,000 of cash payment based on the cost, the reimbursable costs. The issue is whether or not this is separate and apart from that particular incentive, being that we're requiring this particular applicant to go ahead and create a facade similar to everyone else. So it's a question that needs to be answered as to whether or not we're separate them and give additional funding for that type of facade program, considering they are the first ones in as well in terms of doing this project. I guess we sort of like the test. So I'm certain that they'll have development costs in excess of $130,000 based on the expenses.
On the project, yeah.
That were provided at the beginning of the project. So, yeah, that's more of less of a legal question than what the board's pleasure is.
And we knew that, it wasn't that we expected that they would be spending $130,000. The estimate was $206,000, I believe, would be their total cost. So,
right.
It's not the price.
My understanding of the facade program was that it was open to all the businesses on Roosevelt Road, irregardless of accessing TIF or anything else. There was nothing in the facade program that said if you had accessed or had a TIF agreement that you were not eligible or that you could not apply for the facade program. So I don't know how we would tie the facade program into TIF assistance for any business on the Roosevelt Road, especially if you've got businesses that are already residing on Roosevelt Road that have the same opportunity to get the same facade assistance or grant money from the village to participate in the facade program. So if I have a business on Roosevelt Road and I don't have a TIF, I can ask for this. Then why don't we just allow them to open up their business with whatever facade they got and then come back later on and access the facade program? That's what would happen. And then we would have a business up there with either no frontage on it or nothing, and they would just come back and reapply to the village for the facade program. Because there's nothing in the facade program that precludes them from accessing it. It's two different things, in my opinion. That's just the way I read it. You're the attorney, you need to tell me where I'm missing something here.
And we're sort of grasping it because it's the first time.
It's the first person asking for it, I get that.
When we were doing the development agreement, we were sort of discussing it, but not really because we hadn't had the program. We actually believe essentially the program was shortly thereafter or simultaneously with this program. So yeah, it's a good question. I think that we want everything to look uniform on the village. I guess they could. I don't know if there's any requirement I have to check, but I don't think there's any requirement that they do perform the facade program. But I think uniformity is key, and it's a nice jump start. So, like I said, it's less of a legal question than more of a decision of how the board wants to move forward.
Dave?
I'm not speaking on behalf of the applicants because they are here, but I do know that I've been working closely with them, and they are at the point where they're just about ready to open. And I've received a tongue lashing on numerous times because in the village, we're not done with whatever it is we're supposed to be done. So I had a conversation with the applicants and explained to them it's a new process, but my request, or what I would ask the board, is that if they have a TIP agreement or a pending agreement, that we would get that to them so we can get some resolution to this, because we have a business that is trying to come to Broadview. Not only a business that is trying to come to Broadview, a business that we need in the Roosevelt Road corridor, as well as very long-time residents. So I would just ask the board to consider that, and I'm not speaking on your behalf, but I know what they've gone through to this point. And it's so much frustrating for them as we go through this process, because they've done everything we've asked. And I'm not getting into this TIP agreement, but I know it's already been approved, and I don't know if the documents have been exchanged and back and forth negotiation, I don't know. But I would ask the board and the mayor if you all can give them some assistance to bring at least that part to a close, and then we can do the comparison, if that's what you guys want to do. Then move forward and get this business involved.
So the motion on the floor right now is to either approve or disapprove this particular grant for the facade program. Because there's been so many questions, I would just entertain a roll call on this one, Madam Clerk.
Actually, I would like to make a superseding motion to table this until we can get the rest of the information from Mr. Upshaw.
Okay. I don't hear a second. The motion fails for lack of a second. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Vincent?
I have to recuse myself. If the board would like for me to stand up and leave, I can.
You don't have to leave.
Well, that's part of the rules. So I'm just going to do the rules. So if no, then you got to move to the next person.
Madam Clerk?
The definition of recuse is a legal term for you to let the board know that you are recusing yourself and leave. It doesn't matter under Robert's Rule of Order, because you should abstain for conflict of interest and then explain why you...
According to what I read, I could be wrong. Robert's rules is if the board does not want me to leave, then I can stay. However, if the board would like me to leave, I can go.
Trustee Hargrave?
Yes.
Trustee McGriff?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Brown Marino?
No.
Okay, and the ayes have it.
Item number F. The ordinance memorializing the board decision to withdraw and revoke the identification for hearing decision in the case of Chicago Joe Steve LLC versus the Village of Broadview for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Second.
Probably motion by Trustee Hargrave, probably second by Trustee Abraham. This particular agenda item is memorializing the decision which we made in the last board meeting to withdraw and revoke indemnifications for former Mayor Henry Bacinic in the case of the Chicago Joe's Tea Room. All it is doing is putting it in written form. Questions or comments from the board? All in favor?
Wait, I thought you was gonna go down, like you normally do.
Okay.
Can you explain? Wasn't it in written form when we approved it 2 weeks ago? Like, what does memorializing it?
Yeah, basically, we did it, actually, no, we did it on verbal motion at the last meeting. Instructing the draft ordinance consistent therewith. I didn't draft the ordinance until I looked at what we were calling it. So, based on that note, this is the first written form we've had.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Item number 9, application for the authority to spend funds, $26,750.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Excuse me, probably motion by trustee McGreer and probably second by trustee Abraham to approve this purchase order. Excuse me. Is this all the fire department?
It looks like, and the police department. And the police.
Excuse me, police and fire? Okay, I got it.
I think it's, okay.
Which one you got?
I mean, I got them all.
Oh, okay, well, that doesn't matter. We need to go through the report. Yes, sir. Okay, all right. Yeah, let's get a report on these different expenditures. Let's start with the first one, trustee Benson.
All right, so it's Auto Truck Incorporated. We got $10,525. Provide and install various equipment. Black 2013 Ford Explorer Interceptor that we need. And $525, we are removing existing WatchGuard camera system from used Ford Crown Vic and reinstalling in a new Ford 2013 Interceptor. The cost here is $11,050, and this is from the police department. Going to the next one. Wait a minute. Okay. The next is again from Auto Truck Incorporated. We got a quantity, it says here, of 2, and it's this must be the Humvee, yes. $4,525. Provide and install various equipment for the Humvees. It says 1986 Humvee. This is police department. And this is the fire department too, right?
The next 3 are.
The next 3 belong to the fire.
All right, and then for the fire department, supplier is Zoll. This is for $1,800, recusing it maintenance, new system only, June 2012 through May 2013. This is for the web PCR for Loyola System, the yearly fee. Fire department. And then we have Norcom Public Safety for $3,375, the Mavis service fee to coordinate and dispatch mutual aid through mutual aid box alarm system on the, what is this, NIFERN?
ISFERN.
Okay.
I'm sorry, IFERN.
IFERN?
ISFERN is what's the.
Okay.
Yeah, IFERN.
Frequency for the Broadview Fire Department.
It's our annual dues that we have to pay for.
Right, I did say that, okay, yes, all right. And then I think we got one more.
Should have
Yes. Mavis. One for $3,600. This is the membership dues for 2012. One for $2,200. Hazardous Material Co-op. What is that?
That's for the hazardous materials team for the division.
Oh.
That's again an annual due.
Okay, and
They provide
that's what I wanted to know.
the team in case there's a hazardous leak within the village.
Okay, and $200 Mavis dues. So that's totaling $6,000. And well, that concludes my report as part of the committee.
Okay. Given that we've got a motion on the floor for all of these, I'll go trustee by trustee. If you've got questions or concerns about any itemize any or each of these invoices. And if we've got a question about any one, then we'll have to separate them all out. So I will start with Trustee Marino.
The only thing I wanted to ask, Chief Tagaro, on the Humvee invoice, it talks about that this is a special program pricing as part of the Federal Signal 90-day test and evaluation program for the big light system on top of the Humvee. If the village does not decide to keep it, I want to be sure I understand this. If we do keep the lighting system that's on the Humvee now, it'll be an additional $2,100. If we don't keep the lighting system, does this price include any type of lights, a lesser quality of lights or something like that, or?
It's not.
Okay, so we would have to get other lights.
Correct.
And do you have any idea what lights would be for a vehicle like that if it wasn't this set of lights?
Not at this time.
And then I assume you'd be coming back with another purchase order after 90 days when you decide whether or not you want to keep the lights?
Probably.
Okay. That's all.
Trustee Morris?
No questions.
Trustee McGreer?
None.
Trustee Harvey? On any one of the purchases?
Okay.
On any one, the motion on the floor is for all of them, so if you got a question about any one particular one.
No, go ahead.
Trustee Benson? Trustee Abraham?
No.
Okay, Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Benson?
Yes.
Trustee Harvard?
Approving them all together? Yes.
Trustee McGriff?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Brown Marino?
Because of my lack of a budget, I have to vote no.
And the motion carries 5-1.
Item number 10, committee report, building and public property, Trustee Abraham?
Yes, I just have a quick note from the building department. I got this information from our budget officer, Tom Hood, and from our Commissioner Upshaw, going back from 2003, looking at his current expenses and revenues. Starting in 2003, obviously his expenses were high and his revenues were low. In 2009, when Commissioner Upshaw took over, there was a trend of the revenue going upward, and it has continued over the last few years, while his expenses have gone down. So I just wanted to make note of it to the board and to the public. So again, thank you, Commissioner Upshaw.
Thank you, Trustee Abraham. Madam Clerk?
Our next committee report, business committee, Trustee Benson?
Hi, everyone. Real quick, I just want to thank Jan and Commissioner Upshaw for going through the business licenses and taking the ones off of the roll that need to be taken off. Another thing I want to mention is we were supposed to have on the agenda a garage sale, I believe. The email went out. Garage sale is kind of business, so don't shut me up. Email went out from Dave, May 8th, I believe, to have this on the agenda, so I'm asking if we could get this on the next agenda, please, because she had 3 dates that she wanted to do. I would like to comply with at least one of those dates. And lastly, I'm putting together a resident committee, and I've sent my emails out to the residents, so we're going to be starting a resident committee for economic development. The emails have gone out. We're getting ready to coordinate the meeting and get at it. If any of you were at the last meeting, you did hear some of the discussions regarding a Broadview Plaza that the mayor helped bring the developer here to talk to us about it. Just first stage is just to talk to us about it. So we're hoping to, if it becomes something, the resident committee would probably be, hopefully, helping and volunteering with them, and then we'll be doing our own thing to help develop Roosevelt Road, all areas of Broadview besides that program. So that's what I'm kind of doing over here in business licenses, and hopefully the residents are going to be joining me with it, the ones that I've already signed up. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Benson.
Our next committee report, Trustee Hardwick, Fire, Police, and Civil Service.
No report.
Thank you, Trustee Harvey.
Next committee report, Street Sidewalks and Alley, Trustee McGuire.
No report.
Thank you, Trustee McGreer.
Finance Committee, Trustee Lawrence.
Yeah, good evening. Almost
Evening.
left.
Hey,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna use my time to make a quick statement, and it's very, very brief. And it starts out in part, says, I want to take my time to say, good job to the mayor. I sleep at night better knowing that we have firefighters that think of life instead of structure. We have police officers who think of protecting our town and putting their life on the line day after day. A building commissioner who looks out for the small person, the homeowner or renter. A public works director who has not been the friendliest guy in the world, but uses his expertise to the highest. I figured out that Mr. Ames is just straight business. I deal with this guy on a regular basis. He don't like to talk much, but just looking at the results that he's putting out, they speak for themselves. A finance director who only works one way, and that's with the village's best interest at heart. A budget officer who works diligently to get the budget right. So I say all this to say that the mayor put a head on top of each one of these departments, and together as a board, we trusted his appointments and confirmed them. And I feel like that right now, we are in a better place. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Trustee Moore.
Water Rates and Trustee Brown Marino.
No report.
Thank you, Trustee Marino.
I just have a brief announcement for all the trustees, and first of all, Mayor Jones, City Brown Marino, Trustee Hardwick, Finance Director Dan Justice, anyone that I have missed, thank you for turning in those names that I just called, have passed all the certifications for Freedom of Information Request and Open Meeting Act in compliance with the Attorney General's office. We have till, I think, December 2013 to be in compliance. And just a reminder that May 15th deadline has passed for the statement of economic entity that have to be filed with the clerk's office. That notice hasn't been filed. I do have a list of those that are not in compliance. It is a $15 charge, and it will be reported to the state's attorney's office. So I don't think they make much deal about it when it gets to the state's attorney's office, but they do make a deal about the $15 penalty that you must file. So if you're not sure that you have to file, please check with me, because I do have a list.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know I got a $15 penalty. Yeah, I'm guilty. I got the $15 penalty because I couldn't get in. Yes.
Madam Clerk, if the Cook County Clerk has failed to inform us or notify us, what recourse do we have? Because I've never received anything.
You don't have a recourse. You're required to have it filed by the day. You owe $15.
So that's okay.
There is no recourse. You owe $15.
The village can pay that?
We are referring to that really. They did change the information, you used to get it in the mail.
Okay.
They changed it over to the system.
They started doing it electronically.
Exactly, but downstairs, you guys have changed your email address, a lot of emails went out.
They're bouncing back.
Broadview.com.
I don't even know. I mean,
Well, we have an obligation to notify them about new emails, though, and that's what the problem is. Is that it from you, Madam Clerk? Okay, thank you very much. A couple of things came up earlier tonight. I think many of you guys, public comments got addressed throughout the course of tonight's meeting. There was a question about the Hummer. Did you get your answer for the Hummer? There was a question about the stipend and the funds for different boards, and I know they voted on it, and it is what it is. There's a couple other things I want to talk about. That's what I'm saying. They voted on it. They tabled it. That's what happened. So we'll be talking about. There's a couple other things, including a business in Broadview. I didn't understand why that was tabled, but I'm going to talk to the trustees to find out about that. I would like to say this, though. A lot of the things that you saw on tonight's meeting, we're going to make sure we put them out on the website as it relates to development, the budget, the CPR information from the fire department, and the rest of the items that were on tonight's agenda that we discussed. We're going to make sure as much of that gets onto the website as possible. We're going to actually take the pictures of the vehicles that we have. We're going to make sure that they get to the website also for the new vehicles in the village of Broadview. We are a host agency for Age Options, which is an agency that actually employs senior citizens trying to get back into the job market. So we are a host agency for them, have been for the last 2 years. I was approached by a representative of Age Options the other day, and they'll be back. So you may see some new faces when you come into the village hall to pay your bill, or get a different name on the phone, and a different voice on the phone when you call. NICOR is in town doing some retrofits and some upgrading to their systems. There's been a halt on their work. There's been a halt on their work for a couple of different reasons. Dave, you didn't talk about it, but I guess that's Public Works was doing that. But at any rate, we're not the only town that's had a problem with the NICOR retrofits. Maywood and Bellwood have also had it too. As they were digging into the ground to put in their new lines, they actually hit some water mains. So we have some issues with them right now because they were just digging holes every 200 feet and just trying to drill across, and they were hitting water lines. So, Wesley, you know anything about it? Yeah, you know, all right, okay. The new trees, we are putting new trees out. It's a first come, first serve type of issue. There's several different types of trees to select from for those individuals that wanted trees out at their locations. I know that the Public Works Director put it out there. If you know of any trees that you think need to be trimmed or are diseased, please contact us and let us know. We'll come out and investigate it right away. I was asked about, in the public comment section, there was a question about strip clubs. No, the village is not looking for a strip club. We're not trying to bring one to town, but we must address them because they do exist and we need to have things on file for them. The actual litigation, not litigation, the actual ordinance or legislation that we were putting together actually dictates to them what they can and cannot do if they should apply. And it restricts them so severely that I doubt that anyone of that type of business would want to come here. So it just puts restrictions on them, and we get to determine, what we'll allow and what we won't allow, and we need to have that done up front. Lastly, but not least, what I will do, because we did have a developer here for 13th and 14th and Roosevelt with a complete presentation along with pictures and everything else. A little bit more details about it. Joe Rayner, who's a business owner within the village of Broadview, has owned several different industrial properties in the village of Broadview. He's actually the guy that bought the General Motors buildings. And he houses 30 businesses in his facility right now in Broadview, and he's been in Broadview for 20 plus years. He is the gentleman that came here because I asked him, I said, can you help me out with Roosevelt Road? He had an architect draw up the renderings to do something on Roosevelt Road between 13th and 14th. He actually went to great lengths to actually come out and actually walk Roosevelt Road, identify what businesses we had, what businesses were lacking, what was needed. He's then turned around and came back the next week and took pictures of all the major industry that we have in town. We've got 26 huge industrial buildings that house a number of people that work within the borders of the village of Broadview. He's in the process of putting together a marketing package to a lot of businesses. He's already reached out to a lot of restaurants and like type of businesses to say, hey, listen, would you come to Broadview, and here's why you should come. We got 35,000 cars up and down Roosevelt Road, and in the village during the course of a business day, we have X amount of people in all of these huge business buildings, and they have no restaurants. So that's what he's out there in the middle of doing his marketing for, and that's where we are with that piece right now. So when you talk to Ms. Benson about development, those of you that are involved with the community development committee that she's got together, just understand that if you got something that you want within the village, let her know. We'll let the developers know. They will actually go out and actively seek those different entities to see if we can get them in town. And yeah.
The committee's going to be putting together questionnaires for the entire community.
And that's fine. They're going to be putting together questionnaires, but that's a committee thing. So that's fine. But that's all I have. We know we kept you here for a long time tonight. I apologize for impeding on your time and everything, but you know we had to conduct business. With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Abraham, second by Hargrid. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Tonight's meeting's adjourned. All right. Why do we take the business?